Wake up at dawn, coffee's brewing slow. Check the news, let the headlines flow. Black and white candles light up my screen. Patience is my saddle, keep my focus keen. 3/8 traps my rope, I'm ready to ride. Price pulls back soft, just a dip in the tide. Wait for the break, let it clear that line. Trade above the high and the profit's mine.
Good morning and happy Friday, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for May 23rd, 2025. Well, I hope everyone had a nice rest, ready for another crazy day in the market. At least it could be kind of wild and crazy first part of the day. I suspect we're going to have the big getaway day going on. By the time we get through the economic reports and things like that, I'm suspecting it's going to be very light and choppy price action. At least that's my expectation. I could be wrong, but there's a lot of folks that are thinking about the 3-day weekend and extending that 3-day weekend. So me included. So kind of plan your trading around that, because we could see very light and choppy price action today for the most part. Let's take a look at what happened overnight here. First off, Asian markets last night, mostly higher. We had Australia up by 12 points. The Nikkei was up 174. India was up 243. We had South Korea down $1.50. Hong Kong was higher by 56 points, 57 points, and Shanghai was lower by almost 32 points last night. If we take a look at European markets this morning, European markets are mostly green. We have the DAX up a modest 41 points here this morning. FTSE up 8 points, and we've got the CAC up down 35.5 points here this morning. If we take a look at U.S. futures, well, little bit on the light side here as well. We've got the Dow futures are down 52 points. S&P 500 futures down a modest $4.75, and NASDAQ futures down about 22 points here at the moment. So a little bit of, well, uncertainty, probably a lot of thinking about the long weekend and just wanting to get away here in futures markets this morning. Let's take a look at other areas of the market. You know, one of the things that has been plaguing us here lately is the bonds, those pesky bonds. Well, we can see the US dollar here this morning getting weaker here, pushing back. Right now, dollar futures are down 60, almost 61 cents. If we take a look at those bond yields here this morning, well, those bond yields continue to be a little bit problematic for us here. We've got the 2-year bonds that have pulled back a tenth or so at 3.98%. The 30-year bonds coming in at 4.53%, and those 30-year bonds coming in at 5.04%. So, yeah, keep a close eye on those. They continue to be a little bit problematic. We know our rates are going up. We're going to have to watch that closely as this continues. And, you know, it's all about the debt. The debt is just, it's too high. It's unsustainable. We don't seem to have anybody willing to take the responsibility to really do some serious cutting of federal spending to repair that problem. So we just keep driving toward this cliff and accelerating toward this cliff until somebody decides to do something about it. Let's take a look at what's going on in the energy markets here this morning. Oil just a little bit lower. We've got oil futures down 59 cents a barrel at 99.36 a barrel. Brent's coming in at 64.45 a barrel. We've got natural gas trying to push just a little bit higher after a couple of days of pullback, but only up about 2.5 cents here this morning. Looking at those cryptos, boy, they had a whopper of a day yesterday, really showing lots of strength, stretching to new records here. We've got BITO here, as you can see, pulling back a little tiny bit right now. Bitcoin is down $458 a coin. Ether, who had a really zooming day yesterday to the upside, still going up. Right now, we've got Ether up $24.20 a coin, even though they're showing a little pop and drop here in the ETHA chart, still showing some bullishness and mostly bullish in those cryptos here this morning. With concerns on probably debt in the dollar and that kind of thing, we've got gold futures moving higher here this morning. Right now, gold futures are up $36.40 an ounce. We're coming in at $3,331 an ounce as we head toward the weekend. And silver futures are just about 10 cents higher here at the moment at $33.32 an ounce, trying to push back up after that little bit of a reversal pattern yesterday. We've got this morning, we've got copper just a little bit higher right here, just a tiny little bit. Well, that's looking pretty good on COPX, but right now copper's only up about 3.5 cents. And platinum is a little bit higher, but palladium is finding a little selling pressure here this morning. Let's take a look at a few things going on here in these index charts. But before we do that, everyone, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Friday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at some of these charts, see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to look at the charts for what they are, not for what we'd like them to be. Remember, we want to shake off that bias, really focus in so that we don't get caught by our own emotion in trading. So first off, looking here at the diamonds, this nice little resting pullback in here. The good news is we're still holding on this area of support in the chart. If the bulls can follow through from yesterday and continue to find a little inspiration, once again, we need to start progressing back up and see if we can break back through this resistance here in the chart, see if we can get back up through there, and then we have that opportunity to come on up here and start testing some of these resistance highs in the chart. If the bears, however, have anything to say, you can see we're sitting right here on this edge. If we were to get a little push off of that edge, I think that possibility that we could fill this gap to the downside would not be a major surprise if that were to occur. And, just keeping in mind, filling that gap is going to bring us in closer to that 50-day moving average, which, by the way, is starting to turn up. But if we were to get that little bit of a push down into here, I think that 50-day moving average could easily draw prices down toward that level if we get that close to it. So watch that carefully. We'll have to wait and see. And remember, the upside push, if the bulls can get going, we would get pushed up or sucked up into that 200-day moving average. So watch that carefully. Looking at our SPY, well, very much a similar situation here. We're just kind of resting. I would say the SPY has that potential that if the bears have anything to say, that we could push down, at least test this low of this consolidating range here in the chart. If that, however, would to be failing, then that's where we could slip off into this gap, and that might be a little bit painful for a lot of folks, because that gap is pretty substantial point move here for the SPY. So watch carefully for that possibility. Of course, if the bulls have anything to say, well, we'll start seeing if we can break through yesterday's high here and then start pushing up into this price resistance area here of the chart. We'll want to be watching for that possibility. And if we could get through there, well, we're probably back up here testing these highs. Let's take a look at our moving averages here. Again, pulling back. If we were to break this low here of that consolidating range, the chances of us being drawn down toward that 200-day moving average would be pretty high. But if we hold that, we're in good shape. Slipping below there, again, I think that possibility that a gap could be filled in that move. And it's not odd, and there's nothing wrong with these charts. There's nothing bearish about coming back to test some support from this very overbought situation here in the short term of the market. Now, if we take a look at our QQQ continues to be the strongest and the most overbought index in the market, holding in here pretty stubbornly, trying to hang on to this support here in the chart. And if it holds and we start pushing back up, well, I see that every reason that we could progress right back through some of these levels here in the chart and be right back up here testing the highs of these recent highs in this consolidation. If, however, those bears were to have anything to say, also see that possibility that we could start slipping down in this area, and probably no problem at all if we hold one of these areas of support in here. We're still just going to be in that consolidating range. If we were to fall through here, breaking into that gap, that's where a little bit of concern would come into the market. Taking a look at what we've got going on here, we're very elevated, still above our 200-day moving average, and you can see wouldn't be that hard to envision the fact that if we were to start slipping these areas here, then being drawn down to that 200-day moving average, filling the gap, would not be out of the question. Just keep in mind, though, that's a big point move, and it could be very, very painful if you're holding a lot of tech sector stocks. Let's take a look at the Russell IWM. Well, it continues to just kind of struggle along here, and usually when we're pressing heavily into those tech giants like we've seen this week, IWM struggles because we just don't have the volume to carry IWM when we're pressing into one sector so heavily. And you can see that fall in here did fill this gap in IWM, and we tried to bounce back up off of that yesterday. If we can continue that push through to the upside, then I think we're looking at stretching back up here to retest the high here on Wednesday to see whether or not we can push back up through there. And then, of course, if we do, we push right back up here to these recent highs. And if the bears have anything to say here, and we were to push below this area of price support, that gap here in the chart, next area down probably going to be somewhere right through here in the chart, and we would just start progressing down through these little areas of price support in the chart. Now, technically here, this was a pretty nasty failure in this area, simply because we dropped below so many levels of price support in the chart. Let me put this up here so everyone can see this. When we fell in here, you can see we dropped below and we struggled against this resistance here in the chart that goes all the way back to 2021, and of course this downtrend in the chart as well. So we have another failure here along our downtrend, kind of an ugly situation to be paying attention to, but just pulling back, maybe just testing the 500-day moving average. If we can hold that, no problem here. If that were to slip, then I do think that possibility is that if that were to slip, we'll be down here testing that 50-day moving average, which isn't terrible. There's nothing wrong with that. But I would kind of say that IWM is probably the weakest of the bunch here that we'll have to be watching for. Let's take a quick look at what we've got going on here in our kind of internal things here in the market. Let's take a look at the VIX. Our VIX popped up yesterday, trying to challenge some resistance up there. I had mentioned, watch this area up in here around 23 handles as a possibility if we got going. Didn't quite make it into that area of the chart. We were only up there about 22 handles. And notice that if this is our little downtrend in here, we did get a good solid test of that downtrend for a break. And if the bears continue to have anything to say, well, maybe we do come up here, test this area of the chart. Remember, there's that upside trend that will also provide some additional resistance right in that area. If the bulls have anything to say, well, then what we want to be watching for is that pushback down into here to see if we can test this area of support and hold it. If it doesn't hold it, then breaking on down, there'd be no fear here of the market. If we take a look at our T20s, our T2122 had such a strong move to the downside on Wednesday that this bounced back up. Not a major surprise. Pushed up here, relieving some of that sell pressure in the market. So taking a look at T2122, if the bulls can continue to find inspiration to buy, well, we've got plenty of upside potential here for them to do that now. If the bears, however, have anything to say, that little bounce back up yesterday gives us that opening maybe of a little bit more downside here in our T2122. Whether we're going to have enough energy today, I think that's going to be the question heading into this 3-day weekend. If we take a look at our T2108, well, T2108, putting that little floor in here, that possible hook for an upside opportunity there. Hockey stick on the ice, you have an opportunity to score. Hockey stick in the air, well, he gets into the penalty box. And as you can see here, we're on the ice. If we can get that bullish inspiration, every reason to believe we could start pushing back up and retesting some of these levels up here in T2108 if we can get the energy today, and that's, I think, going to be the major concern. If the bears were to have anything to say and push back here, good areas of price support here in the chart to be watching for. So maybe a little bit of rest heading into the weekend wouldn't be out of the question. And if we can hold right around that 50% area, 50% of the stocks holding above their 40-day wouldn't be all that bad of a situation, and probably a normal pullback. If we take a look at our T2107, well, our T2107 doing the same thing, little hockey stick on the ice down here, suggesting if those bulls can get going, then maybe we can start pushing back up, retesting some of these resistance areas up in the chart. Every reason to believe that's possible. If the bears have anything more to say and we do push down, well, we've got some support in here as well. Maybe we don't have to progress all the way back down here, just find a little area of support and a little relief from that pullback here in the market. If we take a look at T2101, T2101 had a little bit of breadth improvement yesterday, which was interesting. We saw that breadth push up, but then we just couldn't really go anywhere. We just kind of chopped around most of the day, and we'll want to watch this here today to see if we get any follow-through breadth on that move. I do suspect it's going to be a very, very light day in the markets, particularly after the morning open. Just, well, think about your risk going into the 3-day weekend, all the things that could happen. Make sure you have a plan to protect yourself going in. And we'll just want to watch that closely. Let's take a look at take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, we've got a few things to be thinking about. We've got this Arkansas fireside chat going on. I don't know that that's going to cause us any trouble at all, but they put it on the calendar. We've got new home sales coming in. New home sales, they're expecting that to decline. Rising rates probably wouldn't be that much of a surprise to see that happening. So watch that, whether we'll get some price movement out of that. Maybe. We're going to have Cook speaking. We've got a Baker Hughes rig count. Just kind of keep in mind we're going to get early closes in parts of the market here, banking and that kind of thing. So watch that close. And then on Sunday we've got Jerome Powell speaking. So very light on that economic calendar, other than the new home sales. I don't know that there's going to be anything here to really get us all fired up. And on the earnings front, we don't have a whole lot going on here as well. My notables for today, BAH, that's not looking too good this morning. Kind of getting we'll see if they can talk that back up here in their conference call, but obviously feeling a little bit of pain here on BAH this morning. And then we've got Buckle in here. Buckle still holding in a very, very bullish pattern. Little pop and drop so far. May not have reported just yet. We'll want to be watching for that. But that's about it for the notables today. There are more stocks than that are reporting, but they're little tiny. Little teeny tiny stocks, and there are no notables after the bell today. So let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, please do me that favor and click that thumbs up button. Leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. Click that subscribe button. Click on that bell icon when you do that. That will make sure that it sets a reminder every time a video is produced and posted, that you'll get a notification for that. And thank you so much to everyone who does take the time to do those things. I truly, truly appreciate it. I never in my wildest dreams thought that there would be this many people that would appreciate the fact of a video that had no hype, no prediction in it, just really looking at the price action of the markets and the charts. So thank you very much. Very humbled that so many followers. You guys are awesome. I do truly, truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at some of these stocks setting up. Remember, I'm not giving you any recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence and be very, very careful in this market. We have seen the propensity of this market to make very big point moves, and sometimes those point moves are to the downside that put you into a little bit of a hurt locker. So make sure you're doing your own due diligence and planning your trades very carefully. Let's take a look at some stocks here. Take a look at GME. Now, GME to me is, I just don't know how this company continues to do this personally. I'm not a gamer at all. No surprise there. But big zooming move there yesterday to the upside. A little rest or pullback in there would set up an opportunity. GME continues to be very, very bullish. Watch that one closely. Taking a look, we've got some stocks just coming up out of bottoms. Coals have just been absolutely beat down here. You can see where we were just a couple of years ago up in here around $60 a share, coming in at $7 a share. Watch that carefully in here, but we've got a little higher low maybe coming in on that chart, and you can see we've got above that 50-day moving average, which we call a rounded bottom breakout pattern. So watch that carefully here on Coles. Maybe Coles might be starting that return to the upside here. Keep an eye on that. If we take a look, we had some defensive sector stocks doing much better than you would expect in what seems to be such a bullish market condition. We had Philip Morris breaking out here yesterday to the upside. I think this needs a rest or pullback. We were kind of stretched to that upside. Little rest or pullback in here. I'd be watching for that next opportunity though, if it can do that. And I'm going to say the same here for Altria. The old Mo pushed up here, little resting pullback coming into that chart. We ended up with a little hammering pattern yesterday, maybe some follow through here today. Watch for that opportunity in here that could be that resting pattern that gives us that opportunity to push on higher here in the chart. Might want to keep an eye on Coca-Cola. It did fade a little bit yesterday in here. We've got this little wedging type pattern here. We're trying to deal with this downtrend in a major area of price resistance. But if we can hold in this area and get some bulls going, I have every reason to believe that could push on through to the upside, so keep an eye on that if you're looking for a long position. I got to tell you, there are some stocks in that defensive sector area, and I warned on this that Kroger could end up as a short, and boy, did it ever. After breaking support and trend, pushing back up, that's that opportunity to be looking for a short trade. And you can see popped its head right into that resistance and reversed into that short. So keep an eye on that. There are some trades out there in that defensive sector area and other areas of the market showing that weakness where we might be fading back. Let's take a look at IYT. IYT is those transports ETF here in the market, and our transports, well, we're going to need our transports to remain bullish if we're going to see bullishness in the overall market. And I got to tell you, we got a pretty good pattern setting up here. Nice little upside trend, little resting pullback in here. Might be worth paying attention to. This right here would suggest a lot of the concerns out there that the consumers are not doing well, that the consumers are weak. This may be flying in the face of that, so watch that carefully. If this can hold support and trend, and we can see that buying stepping up, well, it might be worth paying attention to. If it slips off of this little edge, well, then we start getting a little bit more worried about where those consumers are. So watch that carefully here on IYT. Now, having said that, we should take a look at like FedEx. FedEx in here, you can see starting to provide that concern where we're drifting back below this area of price support in the chart. We're feeling just a little bit of that pressure. Keep an eye on that. If those bulls can step it back right back up, we might be okay. But I wouldn't rule out the possibility that FedEx drifts on lower here. And if we take a look at UPS, I'm thinking the same thing. We drifted back down below this support area in the chart. This rally back up could set up that next opportunity for a short there in the UPS. So a little bit of concern, and that does show us that little bit of weakness in those consumers. If we take a look at some of retail areas out here, though, we've been seeing a lot of bullishness in some retail. UAA, nice little pattern here at Under Armour, breaking through the downtrend, little rest back, trying to hold support in the chart. That's looking pretty good up above its 50-day moving average in the rounded bottom breakout pattern. Look for that opportunity in this rest. If that can hold in here, I would look for that next opportunity for that maybe to stretch on higher in that chart. If we take a look at Costco, Costco doesn't seem to be suffering all that much, although we have pulled back the last few days. After popping my alert in here, we may just be looking for that area that we're going to resume the upside trend. So this nice little resting pullback, if we can get buyers to step up, just might be what you're looking for in the chart. So watch those closely. Now, a little bit different shopping here. Scott's Miracle-Gro. It is that time of year when everybody's out there planting and doing all kinds of things, and they're picking up their fertilizers and potting soils and things like that. Scott's Miracle-Gro, nice little push to the upside, breaking through that downtrend. If this holds in here, I would look for that opportunity to maybe push on through past that area of the chart, pushing back up. Take a look at Avis, really looking good, pushing through. Nice little bullish pattern there yesterday, stretching on up. We can look at Hertz. Hertz also had a really good day, pushing to the upside. There's that first higher low coming in, breaking through some resistance. So watch that carefully. Even if this does rest back, I think that's a good looking potential chart in there for that next potential upside move. Watch that carefully. Of course, we have Carvana here that has been very, very strong and continues to be very, very strong. What a beautiful consolidating pattern here in that chart. Nice little resting consolidation. I would watch carefully for that opportunity. If we get some bullishness coming in the market, that can push on through to the upside. And there are so many of these bullish flag patterns out there, and nice tight consolidations like this that I call the pop out of the box that you want to be watching for, and they are virtually everywhere in the market. So watch carefully for some of those things like Ulta Beauty and a really nice resting pattern here above some support, above its trend. I'd be watching for that next opportunity for that to push through. We've got Ulta Beauty in the same kind of pattern, and this pattern is pervasive everywhere in the market right now. So watch some of those nice little resting consolidations. We may get that. If we can get that inspiration here in the market, we could see those push on through to the upside. Take a look at RTX aerospace and defense area. Pop through that resistance, little resting pullback coming back into this price support. Keep an eye on that for that next opportunity if those bulls can push on through. Things like Honeywell continue to show lots of strength to the upside. I'd be keeping an eye on Qualcomm. Very nice looking chart, although it did fade here, filling the gap in that chart. If we can continue to see that bull action in here, I would watch for that. AMD, this resting pullback in here to trend. Keep an eye on that for that next opportunity to the upside. And boy, you really have to, when it comes to tech, you really got to look at Google here. This made one heck of a move here the last couple of days to the upside, really defying, government wanting to break it up and all of that. Come out with some news and a lot of buying here in Google. So watch this area in here. May have that opportunity to push right on up in that chart, so keep an eye on that. So running out of time here, I want to wish you guys all a fantastic day, and I want to wish you a fantastic 3-day weekend. Get some rest. I suspect we've got a lot of volatility still ahead of us, and so rest up, heal up a little bit, have some fun, and I will see you all right back here bright and early Tuesday morning. So with that, everyone, I wish you all the best. Take care, be safe. See you next Tuesday.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail. Trading with heart where the profits prevail.